All right. Welcome to the Bigger Truth Podcast. I'm Scott McMahon, and it's been a wild week here in Michigan as we're getting ready for our state convention just in a couple days on Saturday. We had our county conventions last Thursday, and I am just so excited to have Kelly Sackett here today. Kelly is the Kalamazoo County Chair. She has been at the center of the fight and the object of so much. I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. So, Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you all for joining us live. You're welcome to ask questions at any point, and we will do our best. So, I think a good place to start, Kelly. I've had you on a couple times, but there's probably some people watching that haven't, even in other states that haven't heard your story before, and I think it's really important. And I think there's also probably some people who are watching, and even perhaps some of your own delegates who may not be aware of all of the whole story and what's going on here in Michigan. So it really started, as I understand, for you when Ken Byer, who is he's the District 4 chair.
Correct.
He made an effort to essentially do a coup. So here in Michigan, the counties are smaller, in most cases are smaller than the districts. And so the larger district made essentially a coup attempt trying to take you out and the executive committee from your county. Is that correct?
Correct. And I don't know if it was essentially him. I mean, I know he backed them. I don't know. This all started like 2 years ago, essentially. We started to go through issues within the county party and had no idea that there was an individual that was recruiting delegates, and those delegates would be used against us. But that's essentially what happened. I was running for the Michigan House in 22, as well as was vice chair of the party. And so I probably didn't have my eyes on things as much as I should have. I thought that we were all working together, and I didn't really realize that there were individuals that were working behind the scenes that wanted to essentially undermine us and take the party over. And I started seeing things in Telegram, this messaging of we take over the county, we take over the district, we take over the state. And that's where it really started to sink into me that there was something going on that I really didn't understand at all. And how big was it, right? And then you could start to see the other counties, and the other counties would come in and say things like, all of the America First delegates were elected, it's going to be a takeover. And I still didn't necessarily understand what all of that meant. And it just kept growing and growing. And we had our November, like you have a fall convention, which is always I believe it has to take place within 3 weeks after the election. And that was a very contentious convention. It went till 1:15 in the morning. And there was a lot of celebrating going on. And it wasn't our side that was celebrating. And I couldn't figure out what exactly happened. And when I looked at the numbers, we had 18 elected delegates, and the other side had gotten 7. So at that point, I'm still looking at things going, I mean, we have the majority here, right? Like, we're still outnumbering them in terms of elected. And then we have all of our statutory. And so, I mean, I had always said, if I lost my election, which I did, I live in a blue county, that I would run for chair. And at that convention that went till 1:15, Sabrina Pritchett Evans was the permanent chair of the convention. And obviously there was some turmoil between us, but we still managed to get through things. And then all of a sudden she decided.
Sabrina had been a Democrat not too long before this, right?
Correct. She converted over, I believe, after the 20 election. And so she decided to run for chair. So she was going to challenge me. I mean, this is somebody at one point that I consider to be one of my, really good friends. And I just couldn't believe the things that these people were doing. And they were literally calling all of our delegates and hounding them and pressuring them. It was like high pressure sales tactics. And our delegates were like, what is going on? Why are these people calling me relentlessly, right? What are they doing? And I mean, they were hardcore whipping votes. We'd never had that done in our county to that extent. And so I beat her. Like it was, I don't know, trying to think of the vote, 24-7, something like that, to I believe like 7. And and then it was just on after that. I mean, it was everything. You know, Ken Byer started coming around. He's deciding he's going to run for district chair. There were many hats thrown in. She essentially ran for district vice chair. But the major part of the contention came at the district caucus on February 17th, where they essentially set a rule aside that made it so that we could not vote on who our own nominees were for our committee man and woman, and that the district would get to vote and not just our county. So essentially, they stripped the power away from us, from our own county, and opened it up to the whole district. So, and because Ottawa is so large in our district, essentially Ottawa decided who would represent Kalamazoo. And I'm pretty sure that most people, when they take a step back, go, that doesn't seem right. Where's my representation? You know, they still fight to the day to saying what they did was right, that setting that rule aside. But when they set that rule aside, they actually had a person that stood up and said that I had broke the law and violated the Constitution. And we had a prosecutor that was in our caucus who said, has she been found guilty in a court of law? Because if she hasn't, you can't stand up and say that. So this narrative of attack, attack, attack started from then on. And after they did what they did, they got their people elected. Um, the attacks just amplified, like times 10. And I mean, we knew then, you know, we were in the fight of our lives with these people. Well, once they cheated our delegates out of that vote, um, our executive committee decided to remove 17 delegates. And that's something that had never been done in the state. And most people are aware of. They were already at this point suing me, and they rolled this into the lawsuit, amongst other things. And, you know, the judge ended up basically.
To clarify, so
Yeah.
you actually voted to remove elected precinct delegates as delegates, or just strip them of their voting rights, or what did you actually do?
So it was, yes, essentially they were stripped of their delegate status, because everything that we have learned now about precinct delegates is that once the delegate election takes place, they are actually party positions. And I researched it with the local clerk. I went to the Bureau of Elections, and the Bureau of Elections actually says that delegates are party positions. And once the election takes place, it's up to the party to manage their membership. And that is what we were doing. And then we had a few of them that were on our executive committee, and we voted them off. And then we filled them, and then we had a few resign. And so at that point, it became, as I kind of said, a very boring meeting, because there was nobody there fighting with us anymore. I didn't know what to do. If I wasn't always like amped up to go to a meeting to fight, and we actually got business done. And, you know, in that course of time, we had to move out of our office that we had been in for 10 years. We moved into a much larger, you know, beautiful office. And we've just been able to move on and continue to grow. And these people the whole time have tried to take us over. They went after our statement of organization 3 times. They had a delegate convention that they held where they voted us all out, all officers and all executive committee, and voted themselves all in. They sent that election to the Bureau, and the Bureau didn't recognize it, because I mean the county chair is the only one who can call a convention. And so it's just been nonstop with these people. And I mean, we had, for the longest time, they ran around, the guy who was chair ran around, I mean, the whole county. He sent a letter to the legislature introducing himself as the new chair. I mean, they sent a letter to every single clerk in Kalamazoo County introducing him as the chair.
Wow.
Who does that? Who does that? Who just like thinks that they take you over, and yet the bureau says I'm the chair. And so we've been fighting this battle with them ever since. We actually filed lawsuit against them saying they needed to stop using our name. It's hurting our fundraising, it's hurting everything. It's confusing people here. And the judge dismissed that case and said that he did not have jurisdiction. We're now appealing that case and have joined forces with the Michigan Republican Party as well. And then on top of that, we are being sued in federal court by Dan Hartman. So
Dan, who was Tina Peters' attorney, also paid by Patrick Byrne and Mike Lindell.
right.
And yeah, just one more connection there to the Byrne, Flynn, the America Project,
Correct.
all of that.
Correct. And he was the MRP attorney under Karamo. And so all of what was facilitated there that took place was really under his watch.
That's right.
And so, yeah, he's suing us in federal court. And we have are essentially asking for the case to be dismissed. And we're waiting. I mean, I don't know how long federal court takes. I've never been to federal court before. So it's kind of a waiting game.
Right. So, you are, I mean, you said who does that, as far as, basically, I mean, falsely claiming that he was the chair.
Right.
I can tell you that there are exact clones of that in every other state that I've looked at, where people do the exact same kind of thing. Like so, I mean, look at Christina Karamo, who, as a state party chair for the Republican Party, is elected out. President Trump comes in and endorses her replacement, comes to Michigan in order to say, here's the new chair. We're really glad that he's the chair.
Right.
And she refuses to step down. She continues for a month and a half afterwards to claim that she is the only chair. She did the exact same thing. And who does that? Christina Karamo. These people who are, cult followers and leaders who want to destroy the party. And that's exactly what she was doing. She was spending the party's money. She refused to transfer the bank accounts. She was refusing to send over the mailing list. She was still controlling the Twitter account and the website. We had 2 state parties for 2 months because Christina Karamo refused to step down, and she was trying to burn the party down with her. And
so the difference between that situation and us is that, we had control of the party here. We had control of the bank account. So they were never able to get that. That's what everybody needs to understand, that when you actually get the statement of organization from a political party, that means everything. You take over it all. You take over the bank account, the office space, you take over everything that they have signed for. You continue to run the party as it had been run. And to not turn that stuff over, it's just crazy. I mean, that's just, I can't imagine not trying to have if you care about the party at all, you will do everything in your power to try to have a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. And to spend the money the way that she did, I'm so cognizant of every, dollar that gets spent from our organization, because it all comes from donors. And these are small dollar donors. These are not donors that are giving us thousands of dollars.
Right.
And so I try to spend their money very wisely.
Yeah.
And so I can't even, again, it all still boggles my mind, because I can't believe at some point that we're in this situation, and that literally to be fighting for 2 years over a political party. My position is not paid. All the time and effort that I've put into this, all the time and effort that, Matt DePerno's put into it as our attorney, all of us on our executive committee, in the beginning, it was the whole entire executive committee that was being sued in Kalamazoo. So that's everybody. You're just elected to a board that you're going to serve on, that meets once a month, and you're going to try to do good. And lawfare is brought against you within the first few months. That hangs over your head like a major cloud. I don't know that unless if you've been sued, I don't think that most people understand what it feels like.
Right.
To have that pressure.
Right.
I can tell you. So I'm getting messages from one of my executive committee members, and she said somebody sent this to her that I was going to be on your show, and he says, "Wow, you got problems just like the Republicans here do in Colorado."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Colorado's bad. Joel Holtman has really done a lot there, but and Tina Peters has done a lot there within the Republican Party. I mean, the whole, Colorado's a mess. There's no say, even Vermont and Hawaii. I talked to the RNC committee woman in Hawaii, and she's been there. I think she said she's been the RNC committee woman for 6 years, and they've been through 7 state party chairs in 6 years.
Wow.
And and that's the state party in Hawaii. There's just little Hawaii, and Vermont, and the same thing's happening in Vermont. Like, Ivan Raiklin is spending a ton of time in Vermont, and he's one of Flynn's chief lieutenants. So it's happening everywhere. Arizona, obviously, I've covered that at length, and the problems there are just drastic everywhere. There's no state that I've looked at that it's not happening. And
I feel actually pretty lucky that we're where we're at in the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we got her out at a very critical time to where somebody new could take over and start raising money. And, to think that President Trump was going to overlook the state of Michigan and essentially all of our efforts were going to go to Illinois. I mean, you heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to think that was a real possibility, that's just crazy to me. I mean, our office here in Kalamazoo is a Trump Force 47 office.
Right.
And to think that whole operation that they brought here to the state of Michigan would not be here.
That's right. Yeah, it would be all Illinois people who are working for the party, getting those funds and being trained in Illinois, but coming here to Michigan to help try to get out the vote. It would have not only would have been bad for Trump, and really, I mean, if she were still in office, I don't think that Trump would have a chance at all in Michigan.
No, I don't either. I really don't.
Right.
The excitement that we see here in Michigan, with them coming to our state, it's like every week there's something, right? And we would not have that. We would not have it.
Right.
And everybody says that Trump getting into the White House goes through Michigan, and I truly do believe that. And so,
yeah, and to that end, I think Pete Hoekstra deserves a tremendous amount of credit. He had a pre-existing friendship with President Trump. He was Trump's ambassador to the Netherlands, and Trump endorsed him. And so, you attack a friend of Trump, you're attacking Trump. And he was clearly Trump's choice for that position, and it was clearly a wise choice. I mean, he has turned the party around. He's raised many multiples of what Christina Karamo only raised, like $60,000 in 11 months.
It wasn't her job to fundraise.
Right. Yeah, that's what she said, right? Yeah. We don't need money. We have people. We have the Good Neighbor program, which is just a euphemism for what the party's supposed to do anyways.
Correct.
Yeah. Russ Jennings, I want to thank you for joining. You said good afternoon. And Becca, I assume you're in Washington State. You said, I just read your Substack. That sounds a lot the same op that Semi Bird is running in Washington. He's a gubernatorial candidate, I believe. And luckily he's a disaster, so he couldn't quite pull it off, but he has definitely caused chaos. So that is a great victory that you were able to accomplish there, and not giving him the nomination. I was concerned that he was going to get it, so that's great. But it's a similar operation, and I've seen his language. He is a mirror image of Christina Karamo. And the Christian nationalist kind of language, they always use the Bible as a weapon, really, to convince people that God is on their side, that they're in this war, good versus evil. Everybody against them is evil, and you can't trust anyone. And they really use the Bible to incite people towards hatred, which is Antichrist kind of stuff. I mean, this is not Christian. These people within the Michigan Republican Party that follow Christina Karamo are the most hateful people that I've ever personally interacted with. And Christians are to be marked by love and grace and mercy. And you never see these people. I've never seen Christina Caramo talk about grace and forgiveness. Never.
So we saw that on hand last night. So do you want to get into that and
Yes. So
the convention?
Let me just set the table for it just a little
Yep.
bit. So last Thursday we had our county conventions, and I'll try to summarize it, and you can just correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
So what happened last Thursday was in Kalamazoo is you had, and this is, I think, kind of at the core. This is why I keep wanting to bring you on, because what you've done with your bylaws changes that's been affirmed by the court, right, is you've basically established that the county party has the right to tell someone that they're not a precinct delegate if they're not going to join the party and they're not going to be a Republican and help Republicans get elected. If they're going to try to take the party over and destroy it, they're obviously not. They're an infiltrator. They're not a Republican. And so that's you've really worked to establish legal bylaws to protect not just the county party but the state party as well. And so when what you did is in with the elected, you notified in advance the elected precinct delegates, the newly elected precinct delegates, that they could now join the party, and you sent them a link to the application. There's a fee, but you also have a free option, so there's no pay to play. Correct. And then but if those who follow Kim Harris and Sabrina Pritchett, and they're their gatekeepers, they didn't do that. They didn't apply, and so they just showed up at the meeting. And what I understand is that they were telling you guys they would come and you'd say, you're welcome to be here, you're welcome to come in, here's an application, you're welcome to join, but you may not vote. And they said, no, we're not here to join your club, we just want to vote and take it over.
Correct. We had multiple people working the check-in area. Then we had a help desk in the middle, which is where a lot of them were sent to if they couldn't get their credential like they wanted it. And at the help desk, we had people explaining, here's a membership application, please, join us. No, we don't want to join you. We want to vote you out. We're here to vote you out. And so subsequently, they ended up not coming in. They tried to hold a convention in the lobby, which we needed to use as a caucus area. We had a police officer that was there that once we gavelled the meeting in, had to tell them to leave. And so they all left. They could have come in, joined us. They did not make a credentials challenge. They did not make a rules challenge at our convention because they refused to come inside. And we had a few of their people come inside, sit down. And there was a couple, they actually were offered to join, to be a delegate, to go to convention. And when my vice chair walked up to him and said, hey, you guys want to go to convention? The look on their face was like, oh my God, what have we just done? And they looked at their phone very quickly and they immediately left. Well, the Kim Harris, Sabrina Pritchett Evans, they went and held a convention at another location. And these two individuals were on their slate to go to the state convention. So they obviously left our meeting where they could have been a delegate to go to state, and they went to their meeting and were on that slate. So we carried on with our meeting. We ended up needing to use a few people that were there as guests to be delegates, and we sent all of our information into the state on Friday, and immediately I was notified that there was a credentials challenge. And so we prepared everything, sent it to the state. The credentials meeting, the credentials committee met on Monday, and on Monday they decided that we needed to redo the vote and that we would be doing it via Zoom, and that it would simply be an up and down vote of the vote 1 for Sackett, vote 2 for Harris. And it was set for last night. The vote was last night. But, there were a few things, and they were arguing over who was going to actually chair the event. I guess they were arguing even over it being a Zoom. They wanted an in-person meeting, which with the time frame, I mean, my delegates hadn't even received the packet from me yet, because I'm not going to send something out to them and then have to take it back from them, right? And so they, so we got together last night, and it was, I mean, there were a lot of us that were at our office. We held the Zoom there, and then anybody else could Zoom in from wherever they wanted to. They had a large group of their people that were in one room also. And we had to do roll call, which took a long time. We had to show our driver's license, and that was a demand of theirs. So show your driver's license. Nonetheless, everybody knows everybody, right? They tried to challenge people. There were certain things that were going on. And then right away, they challenged us on, so we filled 9 spots, 9 delegate spots last week, Monday, which was our executive committee meeting. So we had 9 statutory seats that also ran for delegate. I was one of them. I'm running for the Michigan House again. I ran as a delegate. So you immediately vacate your delegate seat. And that's just a known fact across the party. You can't hold 2 seats at once because you can't only vote one time. So you vacate the delegate seat. So I vacated the delegate seat, and at our executive committee meeting last week, Monday, we filled those positions, and we filled all of them but one. And those people all came to our convention last week, Thursday. They were allowed to vote. They are now delegates. So they were contesting that we could not elevate those delegates, and our bylaws allow for us to do that. And the argument was because we had done it outside of the purview of a convention. Those people were delegates on Monday. You know, when we walked out of our meeting, they were delegates, and that was it. Literally, that was their major bone of contention. And we had 6 of those individuals on the call last night that were able to vote, and they lost their mind over this.
They knew as soon as the roll call was done that they had lost, that their only chance was trying to get those out, right?
They still would have lost. So
right.
the margin of what we beat them by was more than that. They would have lost regardless. Right. However, 6 votes that impacted it. So it would have been,
12, and so there were 6 there. Even and they were arguing against the 9, but it was even greater than the 9. So that was a really big victory, and it's difficult. I want to get to a couple comments here. Hassan, I'm so glad you're here. KK Karamo would have handed the state to the Dems this election for sure, nor would we have had the momentum that we have right now. We still need to organize ourselves as an organization. That is absolutely true. We still have so much work to do. And to that point, Russ Jennings says, my GOP and Trump Force 47 is doing a great job. Thankful we're able to straighten things out in the nick of time. And Trump Force 47, if you're not involved, if you're not helping to knock on doors and get out the vote, it's a great way to do that. There's a good organization there. You just go to TrumpForce47.com. Melanie says, thank you, both of you, Scott and Kelly, for your bravery in the battle. You too, Melanie. You too.
Melanie has been in this battle. Totally has.
And, in a lot of ways, Melanie has it worse because she's the minority in the 1st district. And she was forcibly and really, in the same way that Ken Byer, tried to remove you guys, the same thing was done to her. And
she was removed. Yeah.
Yeah. And we did a show back in, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. It was a communist style show trial that Dare Rendon led. And I'm going to do a replay of that because it is just shocking. If you haven't had a chance to see that, everyone should see it because it is truly, I'm not exaggerating. You'll see it and you'll say, this is not the Republican Party. It was a struggle session. It was a struggle session. They were trying to get her to change her views. They were trying to get Melanie to come around to their way of thinking, or else they were going to remove her. And they ended up removing her. They didn't allow her to defend herself. It was it was unbelievable. So I'll replay that show. And Jason, badger you with scripture, then assault you, insanity. That is absolutely right. That is absolutely right. And Mindy, great job, Kelly Sackett. So proud of you all. And that was really, it was a huge victory last night. And it, it really set the tone. I think I was concerned primarily about last night because it's a 90 delegate swing, because you have 46 delegates. And so instead of 46 delegates that would be voting to make sure that the rules are followed and we have an orderly convention, it would be 46 delegates who would vote as a block in order to suspend the rules.
Correct.
And that's one of the purposes, one of the things that I really wanted to get to in the show is to talk about what these people are planning. They are, so Christina Caramo sent out an email yesterday. I believe mostly they only wanted it to go to their friendlies. So, because a lot of people did not receive that email.
I got it. Oh,
did
no,
you?
I'm not friendly.
Oh, wow.
I know, right?
I was forwarded it. I didn't get it. So yeah, I don't know.
I think I forwarded it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I got it from a couple different places, so you probably did. But that email was definitely written by Mike Labadie. If you don't know who Mike Labadie is, he's Christina Caramo's handler, and he has self-professed ties. He claims frequently that he has ties, that he was a member of the intelligence community, and he uses military-style psychological operations to gain psychological control over people. And he has done that over Christina Caramo. I have talked to many people who have known Christina Caramo before and after she became the subject of this, and she is a changed person. The most common thing is she has lost her conscience. Her conscience no longer directs her to insist on telling the truth, and so it's really a tragedy. And he wrote this message, and it's very clear because there's nobody that I had Adam D'Angeli from Rescue Michigan on my show, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks ago, to look at the syntax that Mike Labadie uses when he writes, and it is very distinctive. No one writes quite like Mike Labadie, and so this was definitely written by him. She's been sending out emails saying that they're from her, but they're clearly written by Mike Labadie for some time. So she's allowing him to speak for her, and it's calling for a revolution within the party. They are calling for people to suspend the rules under the claim that, and this is a completely false claim, that that the rules state that they're going to use tabulators in the convention. I've confirmed this with the rules committee and with the state party. They are not using tabulators at this convention, but this is what Christina Caramo and the whole cult is telling all of their followers, that they need to suspend the rules because they actually call the tabulators black boxes. They say that this is an effort by the globalist rhinos to control the outcome of the election, and so we have to, if we don't suspend the rules, then they're going to cheat. They're going to, because the machines cause fraud, which, by the way, the machines, there's never been anything to show that the machines actually caused any of the fraud. It's all a boogeyman to scare people into being controlled. And so, and they're calling for, once they suspend the rules, then they want to try to remove Pete Hoekstra as the chair. And they want to try to put Christina Caramo back into her rightful place as the chair of the Michigan Republican Party. So
can we just say that nothing good ever comes about from suspending the bylaws? Like, and when it's done under the guise of doing it for good, like they were trying to do in Arizona, with the RNC convention. I've been through so many conventions, and I can tell you that the only time that the rules have ever been suspended, set aside, is for nefarious dealings. It is not for the good of the people or the will of the people. It is for the will of a very small few. And that is why setting the rules aside, suspending the bylaws, any of it is never a good idea. Never.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hassan just said, and he's a vice chair. He said, I can confirm that we are not we are printing ballots for a hand count. And yeah, so I mean, this is they're it's going to be they're going to be hand counted, folks. You know, they are lying to you. They are absolutely 100% lying to you, trying to deceive you and make you believe something that's not true, so that you vote in such a way that well, really, the only people that it would help if you voted to suspend the rules is the Democrats. That's the only people that it would help. It wouldn't even help Christina Caramo, because they need 2/3 of a vote, 2/3 of the floor to change the rules, and they're not going to get 2/3 of the floor.
Right.
What's going to end up happening is it's going to draw everything out, aggravate people, and I think what they're trying to produce is, yeah, I think these people think like this is Saul Alinsky tactics, and with Saul Alinsky tactics, it's not, they don't think like normal people. And normal people have a goal, and they think about how can we accomplish that goal. That's not their goal is to create chaos. That's what they do. They figure if they create chaos, then it's a win, and anything over that is like an extra win. So they know that they can't win. They're just trying to create chaos. They want to discourage you. They want to discourage the party. They want to create as many obstacles as they can to us. So.
Well, and they want to make the party look bad. Pete Hoekstra has worked incredibly hard over the last several months to put the party back in good standing, to create relationships with people who have had the door slammed in their faces. And so it'll simply be done for a means to try to make the party look bad. And that's, they're going to try to do floor fights. I'm sure that there'll be something with Kalamazoo. If there'll be something where they try to remove him, all of it. At the end of the day, we're still going to get the same results that we would have gotten, but it's going to take us several hours to get there. And so their other tactic is running down the clock. Let's run down the clock because we know people will leave. And, we're now telling our people it's probably going to be a 10-hour day. Like, you have to be prepared for that. And we hadn't ever been prepared before that you had to stay this long. And you have to wear comfortable clothes, comfortable shoes. It will be a long day. Yeah. And they, they do all of this because they know, again, people have lives outside of this. And, Flint isn't that close for everybody. People need to get home. I bet you that we don't get home until midnight would be my guess.
Right.
And just because of what I've seen in my own county and because of sitting through enough state committee meetings and enough conventions to know what these people try to do. Now, the good news is I don't think who will be running the convention is going to allow for it. I think that, we're pretty up to speed on putting all of the precautionary measures in place to stop them, but they're still going to try. And it's just like last night, and seeing people act and react and how you talk to people, when that's all there for everybody to see. I mean, what we saw last night, those people aren't lying to us, what their actions are, how they treat others, how they talk to people. This is what I see every single time that I encounter these people. It's nasty, divisive, and it comes across to everybody who witnesses it. And so, something else I want to say that I don't think a lot of people know. Last week, Saturday, I went to a state party and I said to them, I'm willing to make a deal and send 50% of my delegates and 50% of Kim Harris's delegates. And they said, we'll go to her and ask her. And it was literally 2 minutes later that the answer was no.
Wow.
So I hope that all of her delegates that aren't getting to go on Saturday understand that 50% of them could have went. And I made that, that arrangement, that deal, because it would be good for both of us. Maybe there'd be some healing that actually occurred to get half of us together with half of them. No, she immediately said no.
And that was such a gracious offer on your part, because you didn't have to do it. Your bylaws put you in a position where you had complete control.
And I knew I had the numbers. At the end of the day, I have a third more delegates than they do, essentially. And
Right.
so, knowing the numbers, as long as my people showed up and got on the Zoom, then I mean, there's that. So knowing that somebody said you shouldn't have even made that deal because it should have been more like 60-40. No, to me, instead of putting the state committee, MRP through it, I tried, and it was an absolute no.
If that does not show you, like, if you're in Kalamazoo and you have any question, there's a couple people from Kalamazoo that I've been corresponding with that I encourage to be on this call that are supporting Kim Harris. If you are on that side, and it's not just in Kalamazoo, I mean, these people are not on the side of those who follow them. Like that. So this is 23 delegates that are her followers that could have gone to the state convention as delegates, and she's the one that blocked them. And you had there was no real benefit to you aside from just trying to bring the party together.
Correct.
This was a completely generous offer on your part. This is mind-blowing to me that because it really shows this is an offer that they wouldn't, that there is no chance that they would ever make this offer when
Correct.
they have never would they make this offer in any state. Would they make an offer like that? And so this is the way that we are. This is the way that Republicans behave. And what these people are not Republicans, they're terrorists. And that's really what it comes down to.
Well, and I always say, like, my favorite saying is you don't negotiate with terrorists, right? And so I've been saying that for many, many months because there's nothing to reason. I mean, there's nothing, unless if I remove myself from the party and give it over to them, there's nothing else that I can do. Right. And so, I think that we used to in the past always try to call for unity. And at this point, I feel that the only unity that we're going to be able to get is to unify behind electing Donald Trump as our next president. We need to unify in taking back the Michigan House. It's not going to be necessarily a people coming together. Maybe some, yes. I would love to sit down and talk to a lot of these delegates. We're actually going to be having a delegate meeting in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be inviting all of them to join us. Well, minus a few. There was actually one individual that brought a gun into the church.
Yeah.
And quite frankly,
the church
not okay.
Was housing the county convention.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows you can't bring a gun into a church. It's a felony, actually. And the police officer that was there ended up knowing that he had the gun because, when he was outside pacing around, the guy that was working our door used to be a border patrol agent. And so he saw the profile of a gun. The police officer went up to him and said, are you concealed carrying? And he said, yes, I am. And he said, you have to leave the premise. You can't be on the property of the church. Right. And so, am I fearful of people like that? I absolutely am. The same individual's wife threw a credential at one of my people at the help desk and hit them in the head, almost in the eye.
Wow.
And so, not only do we have angry people coming in that don't want to join us, don't want to be members because they just want to take us over, because that's what they've been coached to say, right? We had brand new delegates, everybody coming in with the same sheet of paper that was highlighted in the same color. So you tell me that isn't handed out. And,
right.
And quite frankly, before they came inside, they had I don't know, I guess had a meeting out in the parking lot where they prayed with one individual in the middle and everybody circling them. And it certainly feels like a cult to me.
Yeah. In Arizona, they say that they come together and pray, P-R-A-Y, and then they come into the meeting and P-R-E-Y, pray. And and that it's just a very clear indication that the one that they're praying to is not the God of the Bible. They are, and I will continue to say that this is not represent Christianity. This is antichrist behavior. This is an antichrist cult. that calls
I,
itself
I
Christianity.
agree. And it's pretty sad because I see where a lot of people get sucked into it and they don't really realize what is going on in the beginning, and then it's almost too late
Right.
to get out of it.
Right.
And I hope that some people will actually wake up and do want to join us. And quite frankly, the question that I have is, why do you want to be a precinct delegate for a party that you want nothing to do with?
Right.
When you sign up to be a precinct delegate, you have to sign an affidavit, right? So it's a sworn affidavit saying that I am a Republican. And everything goes through the local party. So you want to be a delegate for the party, but you don't want to be involved in the party. So the biggest question that I have right now is, in November, we're going to have an election for our executive committee. And then in December, you have an election for your officers. So then it's the executive committee that was elected by the delegates who then elects your officers. I don't know any other organization that allows people to vote who are not members.
Mm.
So essentially, we have a large body of people that are not members, that don't want to be members, that want to take us over. They get to decide who our leadership is, who our officers are. I have actually a real problem with that, because you don't want to be involved in the party. You don't want to be integrated in the party. You just want to destroy or take over the party, but you also want to get to vote on who the leadership of the party is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So I don't know if some things need to change. I don't know how we go about it, but I'm personally not okay. I'm not okay any longer with these people not wanting to be involved with the party.
Right. And I would take it even a step further. I think that the leaders within what's going on right now this is a coup attempt against Pete Hoekstra and against the party, and even against President Trump and his electoral chances in November. That's exactly what this is. These people are operating a coup, and they need to be identified, they need to be named, and they need to be permanently banned from the party.
100%.
And these are people like Kim Harris, Sabrina Pritchard, Ken Byer, Dan Bonamy, Samantha Strayer, Deb L., Deb Ross, Lori Skibo, Joel Studebaker, Joe Moss. These people are not Republicans, and they need to be permanently banned from inter-party politics.
I absolutely agree. The biggest thing that I see is that a lot of these people were actually Democrats, and we know it. We know Sabrina was a Democrat. Kim Harris was a Democrat. So another issue that I have is, okay, so you leave the Democrat Party and then you immediately come over to the Republican Party where you want to be in a leadership position. Why isn't there a waiting period? I think that there should be 5 years. If you have been a Democrat your whole entire life and you decide to leave and you immediately want to join the Republican Party and take it over, that should be a red flag, right? That should be a no-go. You know what? I can see how you voted and see that you were a Democrat, and then all of a sudden you switch and then you become a delegate and you want to take over the world. Right. That's very problematic. Until we figure this out as a party, how we get this system under control, it's not going to stop.
That's right.
Because there is no mechanism to the check and balance with these people. And how do we actually vet our membership? And so we're taking a serious look at it. And obviously our bylaws, we rewrote these last year. They're almost a year old now. As you said, they have stood up in court. And they protect us. They're written to protect the organization. When you're in a hostile takeover environment, you have to write bylaws like that. I'm not saying it's for everyone, for every situation, but when we knew that we were in this situation that they were going to try to take us over repeatedly, we had to protect ourselves.
Right. Is that something because I've had several people ask me that they'd really like to see those bylaws. Is that something that we could publish, or could
Absolutely.
we just?
Yep. They're actually on our website, the kgop.org. We've had them listed there the whole entire time. Even whenever we make a change to them, we vote through something, change up a little bit of language, we always send the bylaws to the state party. I think Bethany Wheeler said, "Why am I getting your bylaws?" And it's because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to, if there's an update made, we send them to you so that you have a hard copy. to reference. But yes, kgop.org.
Yeah. And I'll link to that in the show notes on Substack. Got a bunch of good questions. Joe says, wasn't Kim Harris voted out as a precinct delegate?
So yes, she was.
Which is fantastic. Dan Bottomy also, but here's the rub is that they're still on the same committee. So it's so clear that they are not Republicans that the voters actually voted them out and said, no, you're not a Republican, and yet they can still be on the state committee. This is the state bylaws need to be amended so that this doesn't happen. I mean, we cannot have people, and maybe it's just handing out lifetime bans if you're going to try to destroy the party, and really declare yourself to be working with the Democrats. So Joe goes on, glad the deal didn't work out. The movement is not about working to elect Republicans. All this needs to be exposed, and that's what we're working on. Lauren Turner says, in DMs, they are extremely aggressive. It reminds me of working with angry teens. It's true. I mean, they are, it's the level of maturity. It's like they seek out people who are low information, low maturity.
Harris has been bullying Lauren all week. She has. And, I commend Lauren. Lauren Turner is in those chats all the time, and she polices stuff. She removes stuff. I give her major kudos. She has a brand new baby and excuse me, in addition to other little kids at home.
That she
yeah. Yes. She literally
she's a superstar.
She's amazing. We have a lot of amazing people on our team across the whole entire state. That's the one thing that we have been blessed with, is getting to know each other and working together. And we're the best team out there. You ask anybody and what we're able to do, how we're able to whip votes. Right now we're working to help Ron Weiser get on the ballot for U of M Regent. And whenever we get on a campaign, they seem to do pretty well. So I'm very hopeful for him. I know that you had a long interview with him and wrote a really good article about him. And
yeah, it was really a joy. I found him. I did not know what to expect going into that meeting, and I've been wanting to talk to him just to get his perspective. But I was just incredibly impressed with him.
I think you and I spoke to him on the same day, I think.
Yeah.
And I literally, obviously I wasn't interviewing him, but we had a great conversation. And if I had one thing to say about him, I would say that he's a very misunderstood individual. And he has been demonized by Christina Caramo and all of her supporters, to the point of just people think he's a monster, and he absolutely is not. The good that he has done for our party and the good that he has done for the University of Michigan, I've seen nobody else do those same things.
Absolutely. It's remarkable. So he's one of 2 Republicans on the entire board out of 7. And yet he has, through his leadership and his, over 8 years, because it's an 8-year term, he said it took him 6 years to develop the relationships and the understandings that he needed in order to actually, he feels like he's just getting started.
Right.
But
he said it took him 6 years to figure out the budget. He probably told you that, right?
Yeah. And he's a finance guy. He's
right.
Used to working with big numbers. So, it's just, he's a remarkable man. And I think Absolutely. It takes a really remarkable person to represent Republicans well, and actually to persuade a Democrat dominated board
correct
to vote unanimously to adopt measures that I think we would all want to see the university adopt.
I agree.
The diversity of thought initiative, encouraging conservatives to come to campus and protecting them and preventing protests for conservative. This is like, this is something that we would love to see legislated. And in the case of the University of Michigan, now, just as of this year, that's no longer needed because Ron Weiser's leadership on that board. So, this is, and he's, I don't think that there are very many people in the entire state. I don't think that there's anyone really that has given more of their time, treasure, and and heart to the state of Michigan and to the
Correct.
party. He's been the state chair 3 different times. And and he is, and Christina Karamo, she went around calling him demonic and, the worst imaginable things in order to hurt him. And he said his response to that was, I don't really let that bother me. I don't really even think about it.
Agreed. Same thing you said to me. I mean, my conversation with him was a little bit different because I have a child that's actually going to be a senior in high school, and he is looking at colleges right now. And so everything that Ron had to say about what he's looking to do at the U of M, made me as a mother with a son that's going to go off to college next year feel a lot better, a lot better. And so that's all I can say is that I wish that everybody would just give him a chance, would talk to him, have an actual conversation, because he's not the man that we've all been told that he was.
That's right. A few more questions. Melanie says, I really wonder how these disruptors can spend so much of their time on their mission. Hard enough to find political volunteer time between work and family. And that is, they're like an older retired Antifa. Like they have nothing better to do except cause problems. And they really believe that they're on a mission from God, and they give all of their time and energy in the same way that Antifa kids that live in their mom's basement, that's all that they do. And it's crazy. And they never get out the vote. That's not what they do. They don't get out the vote. They only work to try to take over the party and destroy the party.
So a couple things to that, because what you're saying is right. I mean, they are angry. I don't know if they're just not happy with life in general. I mean, a lot of that came across last night. Just not happy people. There was a big difference between where we were at in our Zoom and where they were at in their Zoom, and how people acted and interacted with each other. I can tell you that it comes through. When you hold that much hatred in your heart, it eventually comes out, right? And so I just, I do hope that there's a way that we can get past some of this, and hopefully have some of the people join us and work together with us, want to be members. But I mean, there are some individuals that will never happen. Never.
Right.
Never happen. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh, wait. How many of the disruptors are new delegates?
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. They lost a lot of their supporters that were with them the last round. They didn't even run for delegate. So what's that tell you? They were tired, right? They didn't sign up for that. So I would say there's a good chunk of them that are new. I just don't think that they really know what's going on. We had one of the individuals that didn't get to vote last Friday or last Thursday, who came to our coffee meeting on Friday. He actually stood up and spoke. The minute that he signed up to be a delegate and he was visible to see on the county website, Kim Harris called him. And I'm pretty sure that she represents herself as being the party. And then, does her delegate training. I've heard it from several of them. They ran several candidates and endorsed several candidates, and they all lost. So at some point, do you take a step back and go, that didn't work? It didn't work. So now what? We always knew. I thought that it would take one cycle, run a bunch of far right candidates and then they lose, and then maybe people see the light. I mean, I don't know. It's living in a blue county. You can't run those type of candidates, right? And so you're going to continue to do the same thing and get the same effect, the same results. It's a waste of time and money, though.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Paul Taros, who can possibly think that it is right to remove any duly elected delegate?
Well, the word duly is actually kind of a false. I mean, being duly elected by one person yourself, because that's in the case some of these delegates when they're write-in, right? One person votes for them. Mm-hmm. And so a few things. We probably need to do another show on precinct delegates and what it is involved with being a precinct delegate. But a couple of things. The county clerk certifies the delegate election. The actual Board of Canvassers does not. There is no campaign finance for precinct delegates. That's the only spot on the ballot that there's no campaign finance. You cannot recall a precinct delegate. So you're telling me that if a Democrat runs on the Republican ticket, we have no mechanism to remove them and they get to stay a delegate for 2 years? I say no way. No way.
Right.
And just by the things that I just said, that's actually means of if they falsified their affidavit, right? Because they said that they were a Republican and they're not. That should be immediately that we get to remove them.
Sure. Yeah. And that speaks, I think, to this from left of center too, is that if, and we did kind of talk about this earlier as well. And I think the summary is that if, the party really needs to be able to decide whether or not somebody that has come in and has been elected is actually a Republican. And that doesn't mean just not a Democrat. I mean, it could be like in Trucker Randy's case, one day he's a Democrat, the next day he's the member of a third party. And every day he's trying to destroy the Republican Party. So,
right. So the question that they ask is if they are a delegate, are they an automatic membership to the party? Right. Well, that's a no, because they don't want to be members. I mean, we had several of them tell us, we don't want to join you. We only want to take you over. So they don't want to be a member. They signed up for something with a party that they don't want to be a part of. But yet, ultimately, they get to decide who the leadership is. It's just very backwards. That's all I can say.
Jason says, I wish they would try to take over a VFW. Yeah, that would be fun to watch.
Exactly. I mean, it's I don't know. I think as a party that we have a lot of things to think about. We tightened up our bylaws. It's protected us. State party probably needs to tighten up theirs to start to protect them as well. Some of these some of the bad guys probably need banned, lifetime ban. Some of them need 5 or 10 years. Our bylaws ban people for 10 years if you litigate against us. So, if we ran our own delegate election, then essentially some of these people wouldn't have been on the ballot.
So, in that example, so you banned Sabrina?
Yes, for 10 years.
So she's been banned for 10 years, but she ran for sheriff knowing that she didn't have a hope in the world of winning sheriff, but she was the only Republican running, so she got the Republican nomination.
No. She got beat.
Oh, she did get beat, so she didn't get the statutory. Oh, that's good.
No.
I thought, yeah. Okay, good.
No, there was another individual who ran, who basically did like nothing compared to what she thought she did. He maybe had under 100 yard signs, no big signs. He, I don't know if he knocked doors. I mean, he's an actual captain in Van Buren County. He's a 21-year law enforcement officer, and he beat her 2-1.
Wow.
And he won because of word of mouth within the police. All law enforcement, I would say, in Kalamazoo County told everybody that they knew not to vote for her.
That's great.
And she alluded to that something was fishy. That, I mean, the machines. It's always something else aside from that you're a bad candidate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that this was I really enjoyed this conversation. I think we covered a lot of ground, and I think that what you have done there, your bylaws, definitely going to link to that in the show notes, because your bylaws really are a model, I think, for the whole country. And this is something that for a county party where that's trying to be overrun by these people, and but they're still in the position to be able to make bylaws changes like you were. This is a really useful tool. And I think state parties, our state party, I really hope that after, I understand not wanting to be the party of subtraction, and I totally get
that. Totally.
But I also believe that if you subtract these people who are extremists, then it will add way more. We are a center right party. The Republican Party needs to be a center right party. And you look at President Trump and what he's doing, he is not an extremist. He's very much center right. You look at his platform, and it is very much a center right platform. It's probably closer to what JFK's platform was back in the 60s.
Probably.
As a Democrat. And that's where we should be, because we're the party that really can best, we're a common sense party that can best represent all Americans. And
I agree.
And in doing that, we need to reject extremism. And these people are extremists, and they're destroyers. And that's not what we are. They're not Republicans. I think the Republican Party would be very well served to declare that publicly and to set the example of showing, okay, these people who all they talk about is unfounded theories of election fraud and discourage people from voting, and they don't get out the vote, and they try to take over the party, and that's their mission in life. They're not Republicans. Goodbye.
Agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So I just thank you for your work, Kelly. It's not easy. I know, I'm sure it was stressful for me watching that meeting and getting the updates on that meeting. And, at one point the vote was down, I think like 30-13 or something. And I'm like, oh no.
My husband, who is now a delegate, was at home on Zoom, and he's texting me going, that was a rough middle part right there where we went through, and hardly any of those delegates are ours. And I'm like, no, we're at the end. We're good. We're going to be good at the end. Yeah. I've had a stressful week, going through all of this. And, last night was very much, a big chunk of stress off my shoulders. So, I wholeheartedly thank all of the delegates that got on the Zoom last night. All of us that get to go on Saturday, I hope that it's an enjoyable time. I really do hope that it isn't drug out all day and night. But I am warning people. So.
And it's worth it. So if you are there, do stay. Don't give up.
Don't leave.
Don't leave.
We need everybody to stay, because we all need to vote, and these are important votes. And we're not every state does it the way that we do, where we let the delegates decide who is going to be on the ballot for Supreme Court, for the
public university boards.
Exactly right. And so we need to take full advantage of that, because again, and the Democrats tell you who's going to run. They don't let the voter decide. And so as delegates, we are very fortunate. Absolutely.
Right. So, and I think it'll be fun. It'll be a chance to meet other people. And if you're there, please, if you want to say hi, or you want to call me Mr. Propagandist, or whatever you want to call me. But I look forward to seeing all of you guys there. So
absolutely. See you on Saturday, right?
Yes. So thank you again, Kelly, for everything you do. Thank you all for joining us. And until next time.